Welcome, welcome, welcome to Sales Team Rescue. I am your host, Jeremy DeMerchant, and today we have another special guest. Dove Gordon helps consultants get ideal clients by becoming the under-the-radar leaders in their industry. Now, Dove, you and I met, it's been a few years now, the first time, and we've spent a lot of time together over the last year and a half. And I will tell you from my experience, you are a master of connection, of networking, of building relationships. And that's the core of what you do is helping people build those relationships, strong relationships, not just the I've got 5,000 Facebook friends relationships, but ones that matter, and turn those into profitable business relationships. So Dove, welcome to Sales Team Rescue.
Thanks for having me, Jeremy.
Now, I'm excited to dive in because you shared a concept with me that not only can help the solopreneurs, the consultants, people that are running a very lean shop to grow their business and add, well, hundreds of thousands of dollars to their income, but something that can be applied to not only large companies with teams, but I would say potentially even specific team members if they really wanted to take that initiative within the company. So first, before we dive into that, tell us a little bit about you and what brought you here today.
I've been doing versions of what I do for 20 years now, probably, which is coaching, consulting. I'd say the first 7, maybe 8 years was quite the uphill slug, just pushing the boulder up the hill and have it roll back down and repeat. I seem to have a knack for suffering through certain things and then really distilling what I learned as a result in a way that can help others. I can't save you from everything, but there are some things that everyone's got to have their part in life and have their own suffering, but we can all learn from our own experiences and share what we've learned with others and make their journey just that much easier or smoother in certain areas. And that seems to be what life is largely about. So, I've been fortunate to be able to learn some lessons and share that with other people. What I've been doing over the last 10 years primarily is growing my own business through a network that I've created. We started with a handful of people. We grew to a couple of hundred, and I've been leading that. That's been the source of almost all of my business is people, colleagues. We introduce each other, promote each other to our audiences, our connections, and so on. You've been a member for a while. I actually ran that for free for a number of years, and then I took a scary decision for me, it was one of the scariest decisions, which was to decide to charge something for it. Not a very large amount, $1,000 to $2,000 a year, but it was enough that I was afraid of losing everybody. Every now and then you take a leap, you reach a crossroads and you feel like, okay, this is the right thing to do. I might lose everything. You have to become comfortable with losing everything, I think, and that's a big part of being able to make your way across. And I genuinely got to the place where I said, look, if I lose everything, if nobody wants to talk to me anymore, if everybody leaves, then fine. Somehow I'll make it through. But fortunately, we really, we had a significant number of people who did continue, and we've doubled since then, and I expect we're growing at a healthy clip, so that's good. That experience really led me to sharpen the focus of my own consulting and coaching, which is now focused around profitablерelationships.com and helping other consultants and small firms or medium-sized firms to build their own networks. I call it an Alchemy Network. And the idea, as I think you mentioned in the introduction, the idea is that you become what I think of as an under-the-radar leader in your industry. We all look around and there are plenty of models for how to become a celebrity guru type in your industry. And it seems that we're all hearing about how to do that. However, the problem is, and I would estimate this, that the vast majority of people don't really want that. I think the vast majority of people really are interested in having a good, nice income, doing great work with great clients, great income, and some freedom and time to enjoy it. They're not necessarily interested in putting themselves up on a pedestal and putting themselves out in the public in that kind of way. Um, it doesn't mean it's a bad thing. It's just not for everybody's personality. And those of us who have kind of tried to figure things out, and then those are all the models that we see, and perhaps we've kind of followed along that path, and only to be able to get so far, and then we start to feel like this is not me. This doesn't fit. So the good news is to that, I eventually figured out that there are other options, and this has been a great option for me. Anybody who is selling something of relatively high value, where there's an educational component involved, where there are relationships involved. Often it could be something that you need to cultivate the relationship over time. There may be a long sales cycle. Anybody in that situation where perhaps a lot of your business comes from introduction, from referral from others, the problems with referrals is that you don't have control unless you have a system. Problem with relationships is that you can't scale relationships. They take time. And when you form your own alchemy network, as I call it, that enables you to do something between like everything is one to one and scale, which is not really, it's not a real thing to scale relationships, but there's leverage. You can leverage relationships. And again, I'm giving you a high level view. So, you tell me where you want to take it.
I'm excited because this is awesome, and I know, like, for me, like, I can jump on a Facebook Live and talk for a little bit, and like people will get interested. But where the magic happens and where the big ticket sales happen for me is in those one-on-one conversations, that might be 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 conversations over a certain amount of time, like from within just the group in your mastermind. Some of the most profitable business relationships have come from that group, and it's just part of it is me showing up every single time and contributing whenever I have something of value to contribute, and just being in that mix creates a higher level of trust. And I've learned that whether it's in your group or in any other kind of networking group. So the idea of bringing that, but with some strategy around it, to sales teams or corporations, I think is almost like the opposite of what most people try to do. Like, we talk about how do we bring the big business advantage to the little guys, but really what you're doing is talking about bringing the small business advantage to the big guys.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great way of framing it. Here's what happens a lot of times. I'm sure you'll confirm this. Is that often you're talking to somebody and they say, Jeremy, I love what you're talking about. It's a great idea. We really should do this, but we're just so busy. We've got so much. We just can't take on anything new. Please get back to me in 6 months, and I'm sure that around then we'll be ready. And you're not a slacker, so you put a little note in your calendar, and 5 months later, you get back to them and say, "Hey, it's Jeremy. You wanted to get a talk now. You thought it'd be a better time." And they say, "Oh, Jeremy, I'm so sorry. I wish you'd gotten back to me a few weeks ago. We just went with this other competitor of yours, right?" So what happened there?
Yeah.
What happened there is obviously they kind of you never establish a deep relationship. Now, what could you do? You've got options. I mean, you could add them to your email list, and that's a great thing to do. Of course, with their permission. Um, and then you're sending them emails. Maybe on every day, every week, whatever is a good rhythm. And that's good, and definitely do that. The problem is that it's a one-way communication, and they're probably missing most of them, right? You can also send them articles or books or stuff that just reminds them that you exist, right? Also a good thing to do. The problem is it's also a one-way relationship, and it often feels awkward and forced. You're trying to figure out what should I send them, or like, hey, I saw this and I was thinking about you, and and they may have zero interest in it right now because you don't really know what's going on their end anymore.
Right.
So there is an alternative and that is you tell them, hey, look, I get it. Everything you shared makes sense, and we will definitely explore this in about 6 months. In the meantime, I want to invite you to a highly curated network. that I lead of people like you, precisely the kind of people that you would definitely want to be having more conversations with, comparing notes with. They're where you are, slightly ahead of you, maybe some slightly behind you in some ways, on a very similar path. This is the idea behind it. And it's only $1,000 or $2,000 a year. So you don't have any budget problems with it. And that's really just so that I know that everybody wants to be there. I'd like to invite you to join us, you know, and it's not another obligation. And that's really important that people recognize that this is not another obligation that you're creating, but it's a resource. It's another thing. It's not like BNI. It's not about networking,
Mhm.
although lots of networking happens.
Right.
But it's about relationships. It's not about networking. It's about really getting to know people and becoming, becoming a source of value. I hate that word because it's so general, but really becoming an influence in other people's lives, and they becoming an influence in your lives, in your life. Okay, just one. Most of us, right? And seeing how that actually and things are better as a result. We all know that, with all the online connections we have and Facebook friends and so on, it's the people that we actually have conversations with, even if it's a conversation remotely like this. Like, we've had many conversations, but we've never met in person yet.
Yet.
That's right. So it's those relationships where you come to trust somebody, where you come to understand where are they headed. That's really what leads to real business. And when you form a network that's comprised of well-placed people across your industry, you have, 20, 50, 100, 150 members, and you become that under the radar industry leader. You don't have to be famous. You don't have to be the charismatic guru type.
Mhm.
If you're famous within amongst the right people, that's like having backdoor access to your ideal clients' offices. Now, once you're leading this network, it's like, when you own the network, I like to say it's like owning the casino. You have an edge, because now you want anything else you want to do, you've got leverage. You want to run a podcast, this is like the golden platform. Podcasting with a network goes beautifully together, because some of the people you talk to might be great members in your network. Some of the people in your network will help you get out word about the podcast, right? You want to write a book, you want to rebrand yourself, whatever that means, right? Anything you want to do becomes easier when you have a network comprised of really well-placed people across your industry. And this could be a network of colleagues. It could be a network of ideal clients. I have two networks now. One is comprised of colleagues, people like me and you, and the other is comprised of my ideal clients, and those are consultants, solo, as well as firms who are looking for ways to leverage referrals and relationships and introductions, uh, because that's a big part of how their best clients come to them. And so things are a little bit different, but a lot of the foundational principles are the same. And that's what the idea is like, instead of focusing on being famous, you focus on cultivating, curating a network of the right people, being valuable to them, being valuable to those who can be valuable to you. And then you lay out or develop a small number of powerful systems where you're in touch with the right members at the right time. You make it easy for them to introduce you to new people, and so on and so forth, and it just flows from there.
Hmm. See, this is phenomenal, because even like the existing group that I'm in, um, it's so it you
You
can't
mean
explain
the JVMM network, you mean?
JVMM. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So being in JVMM, it's hard to explain, like to describe the value, other than saying, "Oh yeah, it resulted in a bunch of business." But there's this comfort and confidence and security in knowing that you have a network, and if you need to have a question answered, you can reach out to all these colleagues and get all these different perspectives from different industries, different geographic areas, and it's just so nice. It's like as if if you actually had the power that you feel like should be behind having 5,000 Facebook friends, but it's in a group that actually cares.
It was inspired. This was inspired, at least in part, by an article that I read in, I believe it was the mid 90s, about Penn Teller. He's the verbose half of Penn and Teller. And what I remember reading, this is when most of us were just getting email or maybe had it for a year or two. And I read about how he had this listserv of friends. There were a couple of dozen people, and they had this listserv conversation going on. And anytime he could, anytime day or night, he could send out an email and and a conversation would get going, and everybody would benefit from that. And it was only people that he invited. It was curated, and that's, you said it's hard to describe. Um, a big part of the reason for that is because it is curated, and this is something that I tell my clients as I'm helping them, design and then launch, lead, and leverage slash monetize their own networks. The value that you're bringing is really found in two places: curation and conversation. By curating who actually gets in your network, that's tremendous value. And number two is conversation. You make it easy for them to really have real conversations, get to know each other, because all of us need to learn things in order to get where we want to go. There are things we need to learn, but most of what we need to learn is not going to be found in another book. It's not going to be found in another article, another course, and so on. Although we, of course, do need to continuously learn, in that way as well. But what really makes a difference is when we have a deeper understanding of things we already know. And to get that deeper understanding of things you already know, you've got to have conversations with colleagues, people who are on a similar path. You've got to have conversations with mentors, people who have done what you want to do. And this is what happens in an Alchemy Network. When you curate, just recently, I don't know if I don't know if you know this, but I actually turned away from JVM a guy who's, I asked, I'm guessing he's worth about $100 million. And I turned him away because, here he sold out his company. He had a startup and he sold it for about $330 million, I think about 12 years ago. So let's figure he had partners, investors, and he definitely had to pay the IRS. So let's say he ended up with 50, right? Over 12 years, if he's got some good investment opportunities, maybe got it back up to 100, perhaps. So anyway, roughly, right? So we were talking, somebody introduced us because he's looking to get into mentoring business owners. And that's good. I mean, we had a good conversation. At the very end, and I had like another minute or two before my next meeting was going to join me in that Zoom room. And he had taken out his credit card and he was about to start signing up to the JVMM. And then he said to me, he said, "So will you promote me to your email list?" And I said, "Probably," not really thinking anything of it. And then he pulled back. So probably, why not? Yes. I said, "Well, I would need to see what it is, and we need to make sure the timing's right and the message, that it's a good fit. But presumably it will be. And if yes, then." And so he's like, "Well," and he started pulling back. And so we continued via email because my next meeting showed up. So he sent me an email saying, "Hey, look, I'm not trying to be difficult, but I've been screwed before, and like, if you're not willing to commit that you would promote me to your email subscribers, and how do I know that anything else you say, like, how do I know this is really worth anything?" And blah blah blah. And I realized that this guy did not get what our network was about. We talked, we connected. It seemed like things were on track, but fortunately, we had this little, I got this clarity before it was too late. So I responded to him. I said, "Look, I'm not going to promise to promote you just so that you join the list, to convince you to join the network, because that's not what the network is about. What the network is these kinds of people who have these kinds of interests and these kinds of experience and place in life. And if it's a fit, you're welcome to join, and then you begin to build relationships with people and look for ways to mutually benefit each other. But I'm not promising that anybody's going to promote you. You have to do that yourself. And if that's not what you want, then it's not a fit. And I'm not going to chase you. I'm not going to try to convince you that you should join. And and he said something that I don't remember the wording precisely, but my response was like, look, I don't feel the need to prove the value. I talk to some people and they get it, and they want to join, and it's a fit, and they join. And I talk to other people and it's not a fit, and that's fine. And I said, like, if you do feel that it is a fit, we do need to talk again, though, because, you know, and look, some people will wonder, like, why are you spending all this time curating? And they're not spending enough, and they're not paying a lot of money, right? It's not a huge, some people wouldn't spend that much time for that little money. And the answer is because the value that I gain from this is much greater than that annual membership. Also, my goal is that people will stay with me for 100 years, and over 100 years it'll definitely be worth it, right? But no, seriously, like the value is much greater because when you bring together the right kinds of people, you have the experience that you described. And also, a lot of people do promote me, I promote them, and that way our audiences grow, and we're all able to sell more of what we are best at, because there are more people in your audience who will never buy from you, but they might buy from me, and vice versa, and the same for everybody else. And I just want to emphasize, there's different models for building an Alchemy network. This happens to be, we're talking about a colleague network where you're building a network of colleagues. But earlier I was talking about a network of ideal clients. And the third option is a network of recommenders. So that could work in the corporate world, where, let's say, I have a client who sells consulting that's $200,000 up to low seven figures, and most of his clients are $500 million corporations and up. So you're talking to the CEO, probably, if it's going to be, and his projects really involve a number of different departments. So the CEO is probably going to at least be involved, and certainly at the higher end, but it's hard to reach, right? Definitely hard to reach, because often in his case, the CEO doesn't fully understand. He deals with new product development, right? So often the CEO is the one who's frustrated with the slow pace and the higher cost, but doesn't fully understand the causes. So we've designed, and he's been leading a network comprised of R&D directors who are much easier to reach, but and then he can help bring them together, help them have some success to the point where they have the confidence to go to the CEO or whoever the real decision maker is and say, hey, we got to bring Mike in, because look what he helped us do here. And now the next stage involves other departments. We've got to, so that's what's what I mean by recommenders.
Gotcha. This is, it's so interesting, because like there's so many ways that you can use relationships, and I shouldn't say use, because that's going to be taken all the wrong way, but leverage that you can maximize, right? Because relationships are so powerful. But I'll be honest, I jumped on this, like when we jumped on the interview, like I love what you talk about anyway, and I expected to be pretty excited, but I'm like 10 times excited, 10 times more excited than I thought I was going to be talking about this, because this Alchemy Network, I just see so many opportunities for so many people. So first, I've got piles of questions, and we don't have time to hit you with all of them. And I also don't want you to give away all the secret sauce, because I want people to go and check this out. But I want to mention this resource that you put together. Tell us about this.
Well, I mean, I just really elaborate a bit more on some of the things we talked about, profitablerelationships.com/sales rescue, right?
Yep.
A short video just laying out some of the key stages involved in designing this and getting it up and running. So, and then, we do have some more emails that go out with a few other videos that lay out, like, for example, explaining that you may want to have it at a network that's at the top of your funnel or in the middle of your funnel, and explain that and some other things over time. And people will get ideas. This is not rocket science. Having said that, some people will say, hey, that's a great idea. I could do that myself. Some people will say, that's a great idea. I'll do it myself, but I definitely would like to join your Under the Radar Leaders Network, because I could see benefit in being part of others who are learning from it and being able to ask questions and so on. And some people will say, hey, Dove, let's do this. I want you to guide me through this. And then, over about 90 days, we get them to where they have their first 10 plus members. and are bringing in, a nice, beginning that revenue stream. Because what's remarkable is so much of what you might be doing already for free, you can turn what you're doing for free in terms of the relationship marketing, the sales conversations you're having, any kind of outreach you're doing. You can turn it into a revenue stream. It may not be the biggest revenue stream, or it might be, depending on how big your firm is. But if you're solo, it could be significant, a significant percentage of your revenue, anywhere from 50, 100, let's say $200,000 a year. These are not like exaggerated numbers. If you have 50 members paying you $1,000 a year, that's $50,000 for things that you're already doing for free for the most part. 100 members, again, you're at between 100 to 200 members. Now, it could take you, a year or two to grow that way, depending on who you are and how you work. Some people will be really fast. Some people will be slower, depending on, if you're letting your first members in for free, you might get there faster. So these are part of some of the strategies that, and as well as tactics and systems that I help clients develop and implement. So thanks for the plug.
Yeah, no, phenomenal, man. I'm excited. I'm going to be digging through this as we're off the call. So I want to now jump into the lightning round. So the lightning round, I've got a few very specific questions that are going to let our listeners and our viewers learn a little bit more about Dove Gordon. So first of all, as we all know, coffee's for closers. What is your favorite coffee or comparable drink?
Strong.
I'm glad I had that swallowed. Strong coffee. All right. Now,
strong coffee, pretty much whatever, good.
The good stuff. Yeah.
I mix in decaf because I like it strong.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay. So what is one book or movie you would recommend to somebody to help them? I mean, I would normally say improve their sales or be a better sales leader. But in the context of what you do, I think this relationship piece is so valuable. So I'm going to spin the question on you with like zero notice. What's a book or movie you'd recommend to somebody that amplifies or emphasizes the power of relationships, or how to leverage them effectively from a business perspective?
Um, I don't know of so many books, or a movie. I mean, somebody recently recommended to me the John Adams documentary series, HBO,
Okay.
and and what stands out, it's really interesting to see how he was obviously very brilliant and really dedicated, um, but to some degree he lacked a certain polish, like interpersonal polish, and like you see how I've also started reading the book that it's based on. David McCullough, I believe, is how you pronounce his name. So like he wasn't a socially, I mean, he was very good, but he wasn't as polished as Benjamin Franklin, who was kind of mentoring him. So when he had come to the Congress in Philadelphia, he was very forceful in trying to win people over with facts and logic. And over time, Benjamin Franklin helped him realize that facts and logic are important, but you've got to also have relationships with people that helps kind of transcend and grease the, and sometimes that happens more slowly. And just seeing that play out, and it for me at least, it just reaffirms certain things, because sometimes you wonder, like, I think in many ways I have a similar approach. You tend to think that facts and logic is what matters, and sometimes you're surprised when it doesn't. So now I will say that I think everybody thinks that they're interested in facts and logic, just that they have a different idea about what the facts and logic are. So the relationships definitely do matter.
I was listening to somebody speak about marketing and identifying your ideal client, and they said that ideally you find an audience that has an illogical level of passion towards solving this problem.
Yeah.
Like they're so fired up that the logic's not going to matter if it feels like it's getting solved. And it was very interesting because I'd never heard it said quite like that before. But it makes sense, right? There's things that I will spend money on that I can't rationalize logically, but I'm so fired up about it, whether it's the latest tech gadgets or networking
Hmm.
group or whatever, right? I mean, I
Yeah.
guess I can
Irrational passion is how I've heard it described.
irrational passion. Yes, yes.
Yeah.
That's yeah.
It's like
Awesome.
fishing and golf and
Right. Yeah, I have two sets of golf clubs and I've only golfed like 8 times in my life, so it doesn't even make
it's 8
sense.
times more than I did. I,
uh,
I did mini golf a couple of times, but
Mini
I
golf is
don't think
pretty
that counts.
awesome. It depends on who you're asking. Who is someone that you consider to be a mentor in your life?
Um, I've had quite a number as well, but I'll give a shout out to David Nagel, who I was uh, I was I was in a program with him a number of years ago, and he's always struck me as a genuine good person with a lot to offer. And it was time and money well spent. So
Excellent, excellent.
you've come across David?
I've I've heard the name, but I haven't. I have not met him. Um, but now I'm going to look him up.
Okay.
Yeah. Um, Go ahead.
No, I'm ready for the next
You're
one.
ready. You're ready for the next one.
Yeah.
All right.
I hope.
What is the strangest thing you do in your daily routine to keep you on your game?
I don't know if it's strange, but I have been getting up at 5:30 a.m. and doing some journal writing. So I don't know if it's strange, but that's what I find I've got to clear my head on a regular basis, or I just become unproductive.
Yeah, I'd support that
I
idea.
mean,
I, I just started
I
at
mean,
4
I've
a.m. last
just
week, so
these are
I
just
got
pages and pages of
oh wow.
clearing my head.
There's a lot of power in that, right? Like there's a lot to be said for journaling daily. Um,
Absolutely, yeah, and I mean, because the way I think about it is we've got all these thoughts colliding in our heads, and but when you've got to take a pen and write one word after another, you're forcing the thoughts to line up. You're forcing yourself to ask questions and then come up with answers. It's very difficult to do that without the focus of writing.
mm,
So it may not be for everybody, but it sure helps for me.
I think I need to add it back into my routine. Yeah, I've gotten off track with it. So awesome. That's a great suggestion. My final question, the lightning round for you, my friend, is how do you define success?
How do I define success? I guess I mean, I guess look, I think what we all want in life is the freedom to do what we want to do when we want to do it. Um, we will all have that to some more or less degree. Uh, it's not clear to me that. I mean, for example, I'm just let's say Elon Musk. Does he have the freedom to do what he wants to do? What he wants to do? Like, he's got the money to do it.
Right.
But I'm sure remember a year or so ago when he was working 90 hours or more a week, sleeping on the floor in his office. Apparently, I doubt he felt very free.
Mm,
You know, and he has. I did see some video pop up. I don't think I watched it, but about the title was like, "You don't want my life," right? So, what does success really mean? On the other hand, he's doing meaningful work in his mind. I don't have a clue why we need to be on Mars, but I definitely can see that he believes it, right?
mm,
So, um, success, I think, is to be doing meaningful work, to be continuously improving ourselves, and to really, um, I guess, to a certain, it's to be free and to lead others to freedom. And freedom, of course, you can say, well, what does freedom mean? But then we start going in circles, and I suspect this is supposed to be the lightning round, right?
yeah, exactly. No, that's great though. Freedom. I think that summarizes a lot of things that sometimes people can't put into words. So thank you. Yes, that was very insightful. So Dove, I want to thank you for being on the show. those of you that are watching, those of you that are listening, that are catching the replay or watching us live, or listening on the podcast, be sure to go to profitablерelationships.com/sales rescue to download the resource that Dove has for you to give you a more in-depth understanding of exactly what an Alchemy Network is and how it can work for you. And if you want some support doing it, of course, Dove will be happy to help you out. I'm excited to dig into it because I'm all fired up now. It's a good thing it's a long weekend for most of my clients because I'm going to be completely distracted by your content for the next 4 days. So thank you very
It's
much.
not that much, but
Oh,
feel
I'll
free
keep
to
digging.
email me if you get stuck.
Okay, will do. Awesome. Well, Dove, thank
Thanks
you
for
so
having
much.
me.
And for those of you that are watching, be sure to catch this replay and previous replays over at salesteamrescue.com. If you want to check the latest episode that's live on the podcast, that is also there as well. And if you want to book a sales team strategy session with me, that link as well is over at salesteamrescue.com. We will see you right here in Headspace TV next Wednesday, 2 p.m. Eastern. Guys, remember, get uncomfortable, get results. Cheers.